Hello, West Ham Network. It's Holly. I hope you're all well. Where to start about tonight's game? So, I don't even want to talk about that Chelsea result, but I want to talk about the events which have actually unfolded afterwards because I think it's a lot more telling of where we are at this moment in time as a club. Moyes has obviously come out tonight and said that the reason that we are conceding so many goals is the sale of Declan Rice. Now, he said that basically not having such a talented defensive midfielder means that our defence is not as protected, and that is why we are having these games where we're getting absolutely battered. And I think this says it all. It says that it's all over for Moyes because there is no way that he'd be saying these things and intending to stay at the club in any way whatsoever, even if it was out of his control. It seems like he's just accepted defeat and that's it for him. But it's a real shame because for all the good that he has done over the years and the good memories that we could have remembered his time at the club for, it appears to be currently just bursting into absolute flames right in front of our eyes because not having Declan Rice is absolutely no excuse for poor performances. Yes, he was a really good player for us. In fact, he was an incredible player for us. But we have equally great players in attack from Paqueta to Bowen right now. And we should have invested that money in a way that didn't negatively impact us. Plus, he's basically said that Alvarez isn't up to scratch, or maybe Souček or Ward-Prowse. And there are multiple times where the team have not played well enough, but ending his time at West Ham like this is so disappointing. I think it just shows a complete lack of unity and a lack of care for the final two games of the season when the job is not yet done. We've currently got the opportunity to finish like in a decent place in the Premier League, or we could drop right down and end up in a really disappointing place. And it depends on our results against Luton and City, and the job is far from done. But comments like this are being made, which are no doubt going to cause a media storm. They're going to cause unrest in the team. They're going to cause unrest in the dressing room. And ultimately, they are causing distractions, which are meaning that we're not focusing on our game. And if the players weren't already putting in the effort for Moyes, and if he'd lost the dressing room, then he definitely will have now, because seeing a manager just talk about a player that you sold last season as the reason that you are losing so badly, in my opinion, is embarrassing, because all that matters is taking accountability and finishing the season as strongly as you can and working out what you can fix right now. Talking about an ex-player that we should have invested the money from well enough to make a positive impact is a desperate attempt at just holding absolutely no one accountable, not the manager, not the players. And I think the stats say it all. We've now conceded 5 goals against Chelsea, Palace, Liverpool and Fulham. In our last 3 games alone, we've conceded 12 goals. And that's an average of 4 goals a game. Conceding 4 goals a game when we're already a defensive side. And Moyes has obviously come out tonight as well and said about maybe we need to play more defensively. And the problem is that we're playing so defensively that we're not taking any chances. And defensively, we're also not playing well enough. Like we're making mistakes. We're conceding sloppy goals. We've conceded 12 goals in the last 3 games. And we've scored just four goals. With the attacking players that we have, like, it's about the management of the players that we do have, rather than looking back to the past. I think what's bothered me most about this is Declan Rice is gone. We took the money from him. We bought players that are talented, right? There have been times with these players where we thought, you know what? We sold Declan Rice, who was inevitably going to go anyway, just a matter of the beast. And then we've brought in players that ultimately they've made us a more well-rounded team. And yet we're here saying that the reason that we're not playing right now is because of something that happened a year ago that cannot be changed. Like, we've got to move on and we've got to do what we can at this moment in time. And I think that's what's bothered me the most, because all this is going to do is detract from the fact that we need to perform really well for the last 2 games of the season. So I think it says it all, and I think Moyes has just completely given up. And you can just see his attitude in press conferences and everything has changed, because he just doesn't seem to care about the backlash. He doesn't seem to care about what he says or the impact that it has on the team. And I just think that's a massive shame. So Moyes has now conceded more goals, I saw, than he did when he got relegated with Sunderland. But the most damning thing that I've actually seen is this: the Premier League table since the start of the year. So West Ham would be 17th at this moment if the league had begun at the beginning of the season. And this is relegation fighting form. And this is such a shame, given the highs that we've had with this team and the fact that we have picked up plenty of points earlier in the season. And that's why we do still remain in a half decent spot, despite the fact we've been horrendous since the beginning of 2024. But for me, we cannot be blaming the sale of Declan Rice. That's the one thing that I'm like, we cannot be blaming that. Yes, players should be accountable for putting in 100% and remaining organised during games. And Moyes is ultimately responsible for making sure that happens. But we cannot be blaming the sale of a player, which we got money for, we reinvested in players that have been quality for us. And the players that we've brought in, they've made a positive impact. And they're players that have made us, in my opinion, a far more well-rounded team. We knew that Declan Rice was good, but it meant that we became reliant on him. It meant that we had to push him up and sit Souček back, who could score goals. Like, it meant that we were really forcing ourselves to do things around one player, and that's not the way, because eventually, as we see, you lose that player and then you have nothing. So we've done quite well to rebuild so far, and we have played well at the beginning of the season. With the players that we've got. So in my opinion, that's no excuse, especially not now, when I think I saw Anton said about it earlier that at the time we said we've got to look to the future. And then in the future, 1 year later, we're saying we've got to look back. That's the problem. It seems so disappointing for me. That's the only way that I can put it. Because the sale of one defensive midfielder, however good they are, does not cause 5-0 thrashings. Yes, they might be missed, but when you get more attacking players in to replace him, you should at least be scoring more goals. Like, it's one thing if your defence is the same, or if your defence is struggling, or you've had loads of injuries, fine, you might concede more, but we should be scoring more. And also, I don't think that the mindset is right. I think we need to be saying, yes, we might be lacking this, we might be lacking that, we might be struggling in these areas, but we've got to give everything. I think as soon as you start looking back to the past at things you can't change, blaming the sale of a player that's now long gone and has forgotten that we even exist, I think that's just a shame. Like, I feel like it's quite embarrassing as a club to be looking back and be sort of mourning the loss of someone and saying that's where we've gone wrong, because we're not getting him back. Does that mean that we're supposed to just accept defeat next season as well because we don't have Declan Rice? I think that's the biggest shame for me, because while Moyes could have walked at the end of last season, he was in a good position to continue. The board didn't force him to go, and many agreed and argued that he deserved the chance to see what he could do with another year. And I was one of the ones that was like, look, if he stays, he deserves it, because can you say that someone that's just won us the trophy has to go? Like, even the people I spoke to in Prague, like, people were agreeing that, yes, maybe we could have pushed on at that moment in time and it would have been exciting if we'd have got someone in good. But if he was staying, then he was staying. Like, so be it. It wasn't a point where we 100% had to cut ties. But I think as the season began and the further the season's gone on, the more evident it's become that perhaps that was the perfect time to cut ties and say our farewells. But again, you can't really expect him to walk midway through the season when he's not been pushed. So is it on the board as well as him? Yes, but I think we're just in a position now where we've got 2 games left. Clearly he's going to be here. And it's just a shame if he's throwing everything up in the air and not caring about the impact, because it's going to be really difficult for this to not impact our last 2 games of the season. And that's what's annoying me the most. But leaving all bitter is not going to be good for Moyes either. It's going to make him hard to find a job elsewhere, when there will be many clubs, I'm sure, that would be happy to bring him in. So yeah, that's my opinion on everything that's happened after full time. I just thought I'd throw it out here, but let us know your thoughts in the comments. I know that I've definitely been one that probably gives a lot more time to managers over the years and doesn't necessarily want to make like a knee-jerk reaction of getting someone out. But I think it's very clear that the time has gone for Moyes. I just think, yeah, like I said, disappointing and a massive shame. It feels like it's all just bursting into flames in front of our eyes with 2 games left to go of the season, when we could sort of give everything we can, and then it could have been a nice farewell where we've gone, look, we're cutting ties, we're moving in another direction to be able to push on to the next level. Perhaps we should have done it a season ago, but we didn't. But here we are, and we move on. I just think it's very difficult when you've got unrest like this at a club and sort of embarrassing comments that are being made in the media. And I'm sure there'll be uproar, and I'm sure it'll get picked up by all the media outlets, and everyone will be talking about West Ham and how embarrassing it is and how wrong it's gone. And then summer comes and we're trying to bring players in, and we don't currently know who the manager is. Fine, that happens at clubs. But I think to also have sort of the media circus around us, it adds a whole new challenge when you're trying to bring new players in, quality players, world-class players. You want to try and get their signatures and obviously beat off the top 6, get rid of the top 6 teams and beat them for the signatures. That's what I meant to say. And here we are sort of just embarrassing ourselves. So I hope that this doesn't have a negative impact in the future. But yeah, that's my opinion on everything that happened after full time. Just think it's disappointing because the multiple years of work feels like it's being thrown away at the last minute. But yeah, drop us a comment. Let us know your thoughts. Most importantly, we've got 2 games left of the season. So even if it isn't what's being spoken about in the media, I think that's what we should look to. I think many people are of the mindset now where we need to just call it quits. The season's over. And in a way, I very much agree. I just hope that we don't get battered by City, and I hope that we can get a good performance against Luton so we can finish in the best possible league position from the position we're in right now. And we can hopefully do a massive rebuild, which we're going to be doing a video on soon over the summer, because we've got a lot of work to be done, as we know, from managers to players to formations to new tactics. There's a lot that needs to be done, but I'm positive that we can actually go and do it. I just think a line needs to be drawn in the sand, and it feels like we've got 2 games until that happens. So have a good rest of your day. Don't let this ruin. Don't let West Ham ruin your Sunday. Don't let West Ham ruin your bank holiday Monday, especially. We don't get many bank holiday Mondays, and we don't want things getting ruined. So have a good rest of it. Switch off from West Ham Twitter, because it's a very scary place right now. And until next time, come on, you Irons.